Hello, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell with news and views from the Nefarium on Thursday, August 11th, 2016. The Japanese branch of the Nefarium has been very busy and in a very, very subtle way. When I received this article that I'm going to read to you from one of our regular readers here, Ms. KM, I have to be honest, I was floored. I was stunned. And we're going to get to that. But first, let me paint a little bit of context for you. You may or may not know that the American Air Base in Okinawa, in the Okinawa prefecture of Japan, has been a sore spot with the Japanese almost since the beginning. And the reason why, the major reason why, is that the Japanese are sick and tired, and you can't blame them, of the rapes and so on that have been occurring against Japanese women on the part of American servicemen. Now, this has just recently escalated to the point that a young Japanese woman was murdered by an American serviceman on at Okinawa. And in fact, I've linked an article for you here to provide a bit of this context. Okinawa murdered Japan's Abe to urge Obama to prevent crimes by U.S. military. This was posted just this year from Asia Pacific magazine. It was a Sputnik article, and again, this apparently was a 32-year-old U.S. Marine veteran arrested on suspicion of stabbing and murdering a young Japanese woman. Now, the context is much wider here than just dissatisfaction with the American presence on Okinawa. I want you to turn back the clock to the months just prior to the Fukushima disaster. And you will recall at that time the Japanese had just elected a new government. I've pointed this out many times. That new government immediately formally requested that the United States end its military presence on Okinawa, and it initiated quiet talks with Beijing to have a state visit of the Emperor Akihito to China to mend the fences from World War II. Now, you recall what the American response was. The United States Secretary of Defense at that time, Robert Gates, a Republican holdover in the Obama administration, told Japan that if it continued on that course, it would suffer dire consequences. In other words, it was a bare-balled, naked threat against the then government of Japan to reverse course, the course that it was on. And of course, that government proceeded ahead, and then we had the Fukushima disaster, which many in Japan at that time, and for precisely these reasons, thought was an engineered event. After the event, of course, it was also disclosed that there were a number of anomalies about Fukushima that indicated to some that Japan had been long embarked on a covert nuclear weapons program of its own. All right. Now, with that in mind, I want you to look at the second short article that I've linked for you from Russia's online magazine Sputnik. And this is, again, this is Asia Pacific. This is August 8th, 2016, so just 3 days ago. And let me read the entire thing to you here, because I really think that there's some powerful symbolism going on here. Japan's First Lady attends protest against U.S. military base in Okinawa. That's the headline, and it says it all. But wait, there's more. Akie Abe, the First Lady of Japan, traveled to the Okinawa prefecture to observe a sit-in in protest of the construction of U.S. military helipads next to a local village. According to reports, her husband, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, was not aware of the visit. Quote, "This is my first step to create a world of love and harmony," unquote, she wrote Sunday on her Facebook page. adding that Prime Minister Abe was not aware of her trip in advance and that she was, quote, ready to face criticism, unquote. A proposed helipad is to be built in the U.S. Marine Corps' Camp Gonsalves training area and will intrude upon the town of Higashi in the Kunigami district of Okinawa. The helipad is being built on the condition that half of the training area will be returned to Japan. Many residents living nearby are concerned that the helipads will bring the MV-22 Osprey tilt-rotor aircraft and an expansion of U.S. operations in the area, unquote. And that's the whole article. All right. Now, folks, I don't know about you, but I have a great deal of difficulty believing that the wife of any politician in Japan would do anything without consulting her husband first or without being quietly encouraged to do something like this. This is nothing less, I think, than, number one, the Abe government trying to create a climate of plausible deniability, but number two, at the same time, sending a message in the strongest possible terms that it can, that this base is unacceptable. And I'm adamant here, folks, given the track record of Japanese protests and anxiety, quite frankly, over the Okinawa base, I think what this is tantamount to is Prime Minister Abe himself having gone and sat in at those sit-in protests at the Okinawa base. In other words, this is as high of a protest as it can get. Now, I want to put all of this in a wider geopolitical context, because this event, I think, is highly symbolic of the geopolitical shift and really paradigm earthquake that we're watching going on. I think, first of all, you have to recall that Abe's government has been embarked on a program of rearmament, and in Japan's case, a massive program. He has hit and broken that constitutional ceiling, allowing Japan to spend more than a certain percentage, and it's a very low percentage of its gross domestic product, on defense. He has successfully managed to overturn that constitutional proviso, and he is busily rearming Japan. The question is, why? Well, obviously, China is one reason why, and the confrontation over the Daiichi Islands in the southern part of Japan. All right, that's one reason why. And the Abe government, in doing so, you'll note, has been playing the tune of Washington. In other words, it's saying, yes, we're willing to take up more of the mantle of the defense of the Western Pacific in order to aid our American allies. Now, I think this is, quite frankly, a great big steaming crock of horse bucky. All right, I think what Japan is really doing is it's rearming over the long term, because first of all, it sees the American empire in deep trouble, and secondly, like most of America's other powerful allies, Japan is sick and tired and fed up with the unipolarism and the neocon agenda. Think Hillary Clinton here, folks, coming out of Washington, D.C. So I think what Japan is signaling here is, if you think the protests in Turkey at Incirlik Air Base are all you've got to worry about, we're sending the message again, and I'm sending my First Lady to send the message. This is diplomacy at its most subtle, highest level. All right. Now, what do I think is the other part of the game? As I've indicated, Japan and Russia are trying to mend the fence. Remember, Japan and Russia still have not signed a formal treaty of peace ending World War II between them, all right? And the sticking point here has been Sakhalin Island, half of which the Russians have occupied, and other islands in the Kurils that Japan wants returned, and Russia has said no, all right? But remember something else that Russia has said. Russia has indicated that it would be perfectly acceptable to Russia to push a permanent Japanese seat on the UN Security Council. In other words, Japan would be given a right of permanent veto on the UN Security Council. So why is Russia doing this? Well, Russia needs to counterbalance China's influence in Siberia. Russia needs Japanese money and technology to develop the resources it wants to develop in Siberia. And Japan would like all the benefits of trade and to shorten its supply and energy lines. So here's my high-octane speculation scenario over what might come out of all of this. Number one, expect Japanese pressure on Okinawa to increase. And as Japanese strength grows over the years, the coming years, the protests themselves will grow in strength to the point that I fully expect that we're going to see a formal request to remove all American military bases in Japan. All right, that's what I think is coming down the line. But I think this is going to be rolled out, and here's where the really high-octane speculation comes in. This is going to perhaps be rolled out by some signals from Russia. All right, Japan is handing Russia a golden opportunity here. And the golden opportunity is to basically deliver the United States another slap in the face diplomatically. Because as I said, the contention between Russia and Japan vis-a-vis the Kuril Islands is that Russia does not want to return them and has indeed stated that it will not. But I suspect that Russia might be willing to return some or perhaps all of them if in return Japan would again demand the United States leave its occupation of Japan. In other words, if Russia ends its occupation of Japanese territories, it can point the finger at the United States, put world pressure, the pressure of world public opinion on why don't you leave your bases as well. So in other words, this is a very delicate geopolitical dance that you're watching emerge in Asia, and Shinzo Abe just sent, I think, the clearest possible message of his displeasure and disgust with the presence of the American military base in Okinawa through his wife. Forget about this thing that she's done this all on her own initiative. I just don't see that given Japanese culture, given Japanese politics, although it will play to a Western audience that doesn't know any better. So this is a story to watch, folks. Japan is again making clear signals that it's just about fed up. And you can't blame them, because given the neocon itchy trigger finger and the rising tensions with China, you can imagine that Japan does not want another war with China either, initiated and started by the U.S. So that's it, folks, for news and views from the Nefarium this week. Thank you all for the wonderful articles you've been sending. God bless, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.